And we're back, everybody, with episode 29 of the Jader and Kyle Show. Welcome back, everybody. I feel like we've been on such an inconsistent schedule these past couple of weeks. It's been so up and down.
But consistent.
Consistent.
Consistently inconsistent. Excuse me. I'm dying.
What are you saying?
No, I was choking, so I muted myself so you can keep talking.
Yeah.
But okay. That's what happened.
Hey, that's what we do here. Guys, different show tonight. It's just Jader and I. We haven't done this since I think the second episode or something. And you know what? Yep. That's fine. Yeah. It's good to have a little back to basics type of show every now and then. It's going to be a little bit of a different one. So Jader and I, we kind of decided that we want to remember someone who passed away recently, Sean Connery, and we're going to get to that in just a sec. But we'd be hard-pressed not to mention what's going on right now in the country, and that is the election is going on. We're not going to get into politics. We're not going to get into really hard. But just to kind of address the audience as the nation in a way, guys, just, stay hopeful out there, and regardless of what happens, just don't do anything too extreme. Don't do anything extreme at all.
At all.
Yeah. No, accept the results and move on. This is what it's going to be. I don't know what your opinions are on all this, Jader, but I feel like it's been pretty fair all around, and things seem to be going as smoothly as they can possibly go. You got to trust the process.
Exactly. First and foremost, I wanted to say that this episode is brought to you by McDonald's.
No, it's not. We can't do that. We can't do it.
Nuggets on this episode because I am starving, but it's been wild. The memes have been great.
The memes have been funny. I've seen this Avengers one going around quite a bit. That people.
I don't think I've seen that one, to be honest with you.
What Trump is Thanos?
No. I've seen. There's what Call of Duty one. I don't know if you saw it, where it's I forget the map's name, but it's in Modern Warfare 2. It's a very tiny map.
Okay.
And one guy on the opposite end with a sniper, and it's Trump and Biden, sniper. And it's like it's pretty much how the election going, that they're not gonna go and attack each other. You know, in Call of Duty, when you have your snipers that they're like the campers that don't move, and they're waiting for the person to make that move. And it's like Joe Biden's point of view and Trump's point of view, and I thought that was pretty hilarious.
It's crazy how this thing is taking so long. I never would have expected this to happen. I was 3 years old in 2000 when Florida was taking forever to count their votes. So
yeah, it wasn't us. We were actually ready the first day, man.
I know, which is surprising and kind of disturbing
because the last election we were one of the last ones as well.
But this year it's Georgia, it's Arizona, it's Pennsylvania. I just find it funny that
you did not mention the worst one, which is Nevada. They're like.
They're taking their sweet time right now. They're like, we're gonna count these votes one at a time.
I saw. I don't know if you know the song "Back at One" by Brian McKnight.
I saw that meme.
Did you see that? It's so great. They're like how Nevada's counting. It's like one. You're like, it's so good.
I know.
But yeah, man. I mean, whoever wins. I mean, it's if you voted for who. If you voted for Biden and he ends up winning, good on you. If you voted for Trump and he ends up, just don't do anything. Don't burn anything.
Don't burn anything. Don't go into the streets with your guns. Keep them inside. Accept what happens and move on. Like there's no fraud going on. There's none of this crazy conspiracy theorist stuff going on. Just let it go. Let the process happen, and let's go from there. That's going to be our discussion for election coverage, guys.
That's all I'm going to say. That's it. I'm done.
We're not getting too deep into it. But let's get into something that did happen. A legendary actor did pass away just this past week, and that was Sean Connery. Jader, I want to throw it to you for this one because I'm not as in tune with the famous actor as you seem to be. Sean Connery, I know he's an icon. He's like one of the most famous. He's one of the biggest movie stars I think we've ever seen since cinema started. So having him pass away at 90 is, it's really It sucks because it kind of contributes to everything that's going on in 2020 this year, and we lose people like Chadwick Boseman and Kobe Bryant, and now Sean Connery comes around. It's really sad. But Jader, I know you've probably seen more of his movies than I have. I mean, what was your reaction when you saw this?
Not believe it or not, not too much more. I love the man. He was a living legend. I was saddened by his death a lot. I did grow up watching his films because my uncle is probably the guy that we should have on right now. He's such a and I'm not saying a Bond fan. I'm talking a Sean Connery fan. He's the one that showed me The Hunt for Red October for the when I was a kid. Yeah. You know, he showed me Highlander when he's like, oh, in Spanish. Like that's what that's a good actor right there, you know. But yeah, man, I mean, it's always sad when you see legends go. But in his case, to be honest with you, he was old. You know, it sucks that that he went away, but he did live his life. He was retired already. I wanted him to come back as Dr. Jones one more time in Indy 5. I was praying for it. I was hoping maybe but we're not gonna get that. And it is what it is. Which a film we have reviewed on this channel.
Yeah,
and he was one of the standouts.
Yeah.
But movies that stick out, The Untouchables, man. The
Untouchables.
He was Jim Malone in The Untouchables. Obviously, Last Crusade, Hunt for Red October, man.
Yeah.
He was in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. And Rising Sun, Just Cause. Just Cause is actually really Just Cause is pretty underrated, to be completely honest with you.
Okay. If you say so.
Dragonheart. I don't know if you ever saw Dragonheart.
No.
Oh, dude, he was a voice of Draco the Dragon, dude. Fucking movie's awesome.
I would take his voice for anything at this point. Like Sean Connery, that's what's so cool about him is he has that iconic voice. Someone that you'll always see impersonated. So you go to people like a Morgan Freeman or a Christopher Walken, just these guys who have these iconic voices. Everyone has their version of a Sean Connery accent, and it's kind of a testament to how big he is and how much he meant to people. Was you always wanted to pay tribute to him and by impersonating him in a way.
It's funny. We mentioned all these movies, and we didn't mention his most iconic role, which is obviously James Bond. And but yeah, he for me, I think I've seen most of his, if I'm not mistaken. Like I'm pretty sure I've seen maybe 90% of all the Connery Bond films because he was my favorite Bond.
Okay.
And then
I saw a couple of them, and I feel like he's better than the movies themselves, and that's really he carries the films. He's the one that you go to see, and then the movie's just kind of long with it. Meanwhile, I think we're in an era right now with Daniel Craig where both of them kind of line up. But it's not to say Connery's not a good Bond. He kind of defines Bond. He's kind of what we think of when we think of James Bond. It's really going to be interesting to see where we go after Daniel Craig, what that legacy is going to be like. Pierce Brosnan's still around at this time, and we lost.
That's what I was going to say. The first Bond movie I ever saw was actually GoldenEye.
Okay.
And I saw that in the theater. And then my uncle, same guy, being a Bond fan, he took me to GoldenEye because I was obviously getting into film there, and I fell in love with GoldenEye. I remember a lot of my friends thought it was so boring, right?
Yeah.
GoldenEye came out when I was 10 years old, a Bond film. But for me, it was so great. I liked it so much better than Mission Impossible. Well, GoldenEye came out in 95, not in 96. So I was 9 years old when GoldenEye came out. Mission Impossible came out a year later.
95. No, 96. Yeah, it was 96.
Yeah. And I honestly thought to myself, I'm like, man, this is no James Bond for me, at least, Obviously, the Mission Impossible films went from meh to
that thing shot up real quick. And then James Bond, I mean, you have your different eras of James Bond, but I think him and Daniel Craig are probably the ones are remembered the most when it comes to Bond. Now we're on film 25 at this point, and for people still to be talking about him, that means a lot. That's for you to, if we look at the most famous movie characters of all time, you look at roles like Batman and a lot of your comic book your characters, but James Bond is one of them as well. And for you to be the face of that character that just shows how big of a legacy you have. One other thing.
James Bond is a superhero in his own way, you know. Like when you think about, I don't know if your dad was ever into the films, but all my uncles, they would see when you tell them who's your favorite superhero. Yeah, obviously they know about Superman and all that, but honestly, you ask any of my uncles, you know, what are you into? What they'll tell you, James Bond and Bruce Lee go hand in hand for all these guys. At least for my family. So I always did see James Bond as this kind of like superhero without any superpowers. He was just this badass, swaggy player, ladies' man guy that would just happen to kick some ass, man. He was very suave doing it in the suits and all that, and he had all this tech. It was a lot of fun watching these James Bond films. But I fell in love so much with GoldenEye that I went back and started watching old Bond films.
Okay.
And that's how I don't want to say how I found Connery, because again, I had seen Hunt for Red October, and it's not as iconic as he is. That's not my favorite Connery movie, because we're going to talk about it. Which people call me crazy all the time, but absolutely love this film.
What I just want to say before we get to that, I kind of want to say one of my favorite things I'm going to remember about him, it's crazy because it's not even him, is Phil Hartman's impersonation of him on Saturday Night Live.
Oh my God.
Especially during Jeopardy. It's the funniest thing. And when they did the 40th anniversary, when they brought it back, or when he just misreads everything. So the category is Let It Snow, and then he changes it to Let It Now. I'd like to see Let It Snow.
No, and so funny. Will Ferrell does such a good job too.
They play back and forth really good.
So good. But yeah, no, I understand. My cousin said the same thing actually when I posted in a group chat. I'm like, oh, dude, man, I'm like, Sean Connery died. And then he goes, you know what's crazy, man? The first thing I think about is SNL, man. He's like, I don't even think about him. I think about the SNL skits.
And then Norm Macdonald shows up right next to him as Burt Reynolds. It just, those two right next to each other they're two of the biggest movie stars we've ever seen in our entire lives, and see them on Celebrity Jeopardy being impersonated, being honored like that. It is really cool. I mean, who are the biggest movie stars of all time? It's definitely Connery, Reynolds, Cruise. You got
Niro, Brando.
Yeah, and then Chaplin. I guess like those would be your originals right there.
Jimmy
as you
Stewart,
go through,
Jimmy Stewart was
Jimmy Stewart. Yeah.
So,
but like, I don't even know.
We've been lucky, man. And let me tell you, like, if you mentioned so many, like what you just said, and there's some that are, still alive and kicking, and we're still seeing work from them, and they've been around for years, and they're considered again legends. So, like, again, we all know De Niro has his shit films. It's always fun to see him on screen. Like, I'm like, yo, look, he's still doing it. He's still going around and still doing it after all these years, man. But give him the right role, and he's gonna, in my opinion, he'll deliver given the right role, But
right.
I feel like he's saying yes to anything right now.
De Niro, oh yeah, The War with Grandpa. You haven't seen that yet? It's the feel-good movie of the year. But that's gonna bring us to our movie of the week. And when Chuck passed away, there was only one film that Jader wanted to do. He didn't even give me a choice. He's like, this is the one. This is it. You have to watch this. And that brings us to The Rock. Not Dwayne Johnson, the movie The Rock. We're going to Alcatraz. Jader, I had never seen this film going into it.
I'm glad that we didn't talk about it, because, again, I saw this movie in the movie theater, right? And I know you're going to shit on it, and I don't care.
No, you don't know that.
Right.
90s action movies are tough for me.
I think this movie is such a fun ride from beginning to end. I have my issues with it here and there, but it's kind of surprising because in my opinion, this is Michael Bay's best film. It's between this and Bad Boys, the first one.
We'll get to that category.
We will.
I think that's something that we're gonna have a discussion about coming up, because there's a category where I couldn't find too many options, and like, oh, maybe it's this one. So we'll get there. But no, I agree with you when it comes. Let's talk about Michael Bay then. I guess this is one of the most divisive actors I've seen in my entire life, or not actors. Yeah, I've seen in my entire life. He makes these big popcorn explosion flicks that a lot of people go to the movies for. They want to see explosions. They want to see guys with their shirts off, being tough, and being macho, all this stuff. That's what movies used to be in the 90s. That was a big thing, and Michael Bay kind of keyed in on that and found that audience and has wrote it all the way till today. When you see movies like Six Underground still come out, and there's Jader, who is still a fan of these movies. I think what he's most well known for, and we'll probably get to this later, is Transformers, his Transformers franchise.
I don't know if it's me, I don't know if it's you, but your mic is like in and out, like very choppy.
Can you hear me right now? Do I sound good?
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. Let's go.
Okay, yeah. Every now and then just fades out. But I think Transformers is probably what he's most well known for when it comes to his career. He's had such a shaky career, man. I feel like people really, when it's time to shit on a director, he's the one that they really hammer.
Usually.
Roland Emmerich's the other one too, which I'm okay with that one. But Jader, when you think of Michael Bay, man, what are your thoughts?
Growing up, he was my favorite director. This is when I was getting into film, but I realized I'm like him and Jerry Bruckheimer and Dom Simpson.
Mm-hmm.
Every movie that they were making together was hit after hit after for me, but I was the audience, that they were trying to grab, So first movie I ever saw with him was obviously Bad Boys, because I'm not mistaken, that's his feature film directorial debut.
Yes.
And right after Bad Boys, again, 95, 9 years old, watching Bad Boys. And for me, it was the funniest, most action-packed movie I've ever seen in my life. So I'm like, this is the greatest film of all time, right? The following year, I see director Michael Bay that directed I don't know even if it had Bad Boys in the prompt, but I remember Michael Bay's name from watching Bad Boys over. And I'm telling you that I've probably seen Bad Boys over 40 times.
Okay.
Easy. I can probably do an Iron Man match, like with Bad Boys.
Oh, Bad Boys, all three of them?
The first two.
First two, okay.
The first two, I'm pretty good. The third one, I've only seen, and I love it. It's still
It'll take some time, yeah.
Remember, I'm going to be nominated for an Oscar, but I give it time, and I'll probably watch them. I just haven't had time. You get me?
No, of course.
Had I not been doing anything I probably would have seen Bad Boys 3 a couple more times. I just did it. And it's my least favorite of the three, to be honest. They go in order for me. Even 2, sometimes I'll swap it out because I love 2, how cheesy and how like over the top and how the jokes are just over the top. Like that movie wouldn't fly now. No,
not at all.
It's pretty dangerous.
A lot of Michael Bay's movies don't fly right now, and he's learning that. I remember that just this year, a video of Megan Fox on Jimmy Kimmel resurfaced about how Michael Bay kind of treated her on the set of Transformers. So it was
an object.
Well, yeah, he had her like wash his car or stuff like that.
And, that's true. That's true. But so going back, and then if you've seen Bad Boys and now you saw The Rock, and I felt like, damn, this guy really elevated his level, in my opinion, in a film, I think it's kind of a general census that a lot of people feel you're crazy, bro. The villain's better. I'll tell you that much. That's my favorite part of Bad Boys 3. The villain.
What? That's my least favorite part.
So it's
The Witch? Are you kidding me?
Huh?
The Witch?
No, his son was a badass, in my opinion.
Yeah, but the Witch was okay.
Yeah. But so seeing The Rock and again going to the movies and watching it, I remember my uncle saw it before I did, not the same one, another one, and he was like, "Man, what a movie! You got to go see this." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm telling my mom, I'm dying to go see it." And he's like, "It's really, really, really long." I thought it was like a 3-hour long movie when I went, and that movie for me flies. Every time that I see that movie, it goes by so fast because I'm so entertained by it. But yeah, for me, again, it's Connery was a badass in this movie. John Mason, man.
He's the best part, and it really like. So it's my first time seeing this movie. The plot, if you people don't know, is there's a there's a I guess what is it, like a Marine storms into Alcatraz, locks about 80 something hostages there, and threatens to unleash this poisonous gas upon San Francisco. In and out. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. You're on mute. You're on mute.
No, I can't hear you.
You're on mute right now.
No. I can't hear you at all.
Can you hear me now? That's weird. All right, let me go back and you take over.
Yeah, audio's really bad, dude.
All right, I'm going to get out real quick.
All right, no, go ahead. How am I going to go by myself? Is it a one-man show now? Jesus Christ. What kind of show are we running here? So, yeah, Anthony. Part 3 is definitely not better than Part 2. I feel like the villain was slightly better than Part 2, but overall, not a better film. Part 2 was way funnier. Action was better. And chemistry, I felt, was better between both of them as well. This one-man show sucks. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them at me, and maybe I'll answer. Oh, thank God you're back.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
I freaked out.
Do I sound better?
You sound way better.
Okay. All right.
All right. So first time you're watching this, yeah. So this is basically a Marine renegade general is what basically what he is. And he, feels that his men were disrespected by the United States, forgotten soldiers, and he basically gets this gas.
It's chemical. It's chemical.
Yeah, it's a chemical nerve gas that fucking turns your insides out, basically. And he sets up shop in an empty Alcatraz. He's on a tour on Alcatraz. Marines decide to take over, take hostages, get their demands. No one knows Alcatraz like this badass called John Mason, which is Sean Connery, and he's the only one that's ever escaped Alcatraz. So they need his blueprint, which is in his mind, to go back into Alcatraz and get the general.
It's like Die Hard on Alcatraz. It really is, right? It's funny because Die Hard created this whole new genre where everyone's like, all right, Die Hard and Alcatraz, Die Hard and the White House, and it's just over and over again. And it always works. It's always entertaining no matter what, even if the movie's not as good. So you probably want to hear my general thoughts on this movie. I think it's a fun time. I'm not the biggest Michael Bay guy, and I'll say this right now. I enjoy the Transformers movies as pure entertainment. I'm not expecting any, Oscar stuff out of it. I'm not expecting it to change my life, but I like seeing giant robots on the screen, and Michael Bay does nail it. Even though there's some bad stuff in those films, I think they're entertaining. So when it comes to The Rock, you know me with 90s action movies. They're not my strong suit. They're not my forte.
I know.
It's probably the one thing whenever they come up, I go, oh boy, here we go again.
I know.
And we've done quite a few of them on this show too.
We have.
And there's been some misses. Point Break. I will say this: I like The Rock better than Point Break, and I like it quite a bit more. Yeah, I do like this. It's a good concept. The characters are interesting. Nicolas Cage is actually very toned down in this film.
Stanley Goodspeed, man. Goodspeed. He's a hell of a character. I love Stanley Goodspeed, man.
He wasn't full Nicolas Cage in this film, like I was expecting him.
He doesn't. He has like a couple scenes where he does it, but other than that, one of the first Nicolas Cage movies that I saw. I think because I can't even recall. I think I saw Leaving Las Vegas before I saw this one. I was like, oh, this guy does action.
You saw Leaving Las Vegas before seeing this movie?
Yeah. I think so.
That's a way more hardcore. Well, not action-wise, but as far as what that subject material, good God.
Yeah. I told you my mom never censored me, ever. Again, I saw this in the theater. I was freaking 10 years old, man.
That's crazy, man.
But yeah, him. But again, if we're gonna start just talking names, actors, and all that stuff, Ed Harris, man.
Yeah, I mean, Ed Harris is a consummate professional. You could slide him into any movie and he's going to work. I don't think there's any movie that Ed Harris couldn't be in. You could put him in something and it's like, okay, he's going to be your next door neighbor who's angry at you, or he's going to be the father of the daughter who's the main protagonist. He's going to be your general.
He could be a villain like this, because in this movie, I feel like he's the villain.
Yeah.
But, we're going to talk spoilers. This movie came out a long time ago. So I thought he wasn't really a villain compared to his crew, because he wanted his demands, but at the end he says it at the end. He's like, "You think I'm psychotic? You think that I'm gonna kill all these innocent people? Like, are you crazy?" He's like, they call my bluff. It's done. We're done. And then that whole obviously little shootout scene there. But man. I just feel like this has a hell of a cast, dude. You have Sean Connery, man. You have Ed Harris. You have Stanley Goodspeed. Listen to me. You have Nicolas Cage, man. David Morse is in this film. William Forsythe. Michael Biehn is in this movie, dude. Very
Todd and John C. McGinley, and there's quite a few people who pop up, and that's going to make a fun discussion for when we get to the cameo. Steve Harris. Yes, there's quite a bit of guys in there that just pop up. It's a macho man movie, absolutely is. But Sean Connery really. How many women are in this film? I think there's two, right? There's the one that Sean Connery goes to meet, and then there's Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, Jade and the fiance.
Yeah,
and what's her name? Carla.
Yes,
the prom queen.
The prom queen. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to the categories here. Best scene. This is where we always start. I'm curious as to what your pick for this is.
Actually, Jay. You know what? I've seen this movie quite enough.
Go first?
You go first.
I really like the interrogation scene where we first meet Sean Connery. When he's sitting in the jail.
Drop all Michael Bay, like all slow motion, and the only one that's ever gotten out, and this and that.
I mostly like it when when they switch it to Nicolas Cage going into the cell, and Nicolas Cage clearly doesn't know what he's doing. He just got thrown in.
And Sean Connery is calling his shit like
immediately. You're not gonna offer me coffee, or you're gonna ask
me a cup of coffee.
No, it's really entertaining, and it's cool like to see these guys sit down and just have an interaction with each other. This is their first time meeting. Who knows if it was their first time ever meeting on set? That would have been cool if it was, but it works out so well. You see the dynamic, you see the charisma of Sean Connery, and just set you up for the rest of the movie. Like, okay, this is a character I want to pay attention to. Because to be honest, if it was more about Goodspeed, it's not as entertaining. But throwing Connery in there, it's a lot better. So that introduction
they're the complete opposite.
Oh yeah,
they're Matt. Okay, so I'm just gonna say my favorite scene. My favorite scene is actually the most macho fucking scene in this movie, and it's the shower scene.
Okay, so it immediately follows this.
Yeah, so the shower scene for me was intense as fuck. The interaction where obviously Michael Biehn and his army is basically telling them like, you guys have fucking lost your minds, and then General Hummel is Ed Harris's character is up there, and he go, and that whole you're down there, we're up here, and then like that whole I would not give that order, like that whole fuck. I'm like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? And then every single character that you got introduced to that are the good guys fucking get annihilated.
Yes,
they all die, and you're like, what the fuck is gonna happen next? At least again,
wow. We were thinking of different shower scenes.
Oh, you're talking about the one in the end.
Okay, I was thinking the one where he like steals the string and then he.
Oh no! I'm talking about the like.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Where we just lose everybody because of break off the side ledge and everyone just starts firing.
Yeah, exactly, and everybody starts going. They all die. Everybody, obviously, the Marines escape or whatever. But then you have immediately after that, they're like the only two left. They're like, who are we left? They're like, oh, Mason and Goodspeed. They're like, oh shit, and it's like, holy shit, what's gonna happen? Because these two are the complete opposites. Another scene, just because of the dynamic, is that Sean Connery, is such a badass, right? Like he's ready to go in there, kick some asses and that. But the second that Cage's character tells him what the chemicals do, where he's like, fuck, like you can tell, like he's like, let me step it down a notch, because what the fuck did I get myself into, and he even says it, he's like, you guys, this is a suicide mission, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, this and that. So but I love that scene every single time that I see that movie. It's terrible to say, but I'm smiling from ear to ear because it's feels like the first time, man, every time. Love that scene.
I also love the moment where I forget what he says, but it's when Goodspeed and Mason separate, and because Mason's going to go and kind of distract them from what's going on, and then Connery just throws up the thumbs up, right? Like, I got it.
Yeah, so great.
Perfect. Yeah, it's so good. All right, let's move on to best line. I think we're going to go with the same line here because we kind of dropped it earlier. You want to say it, Jader?
Winners go home and fuck the prom queen, bro.
Losers always line about their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen. And deliver that out of Sean Connery's voice. What a line that is right there. It kind of hits.
Your best. It's so good. Yeah, that's my favorite line too. Hands down, man.
It's something
There's a lot of good lines. I mean, and mostly I like most of them come from me from Ed Harris. But yeah, man. But I that line always, and every time I watch that movie, verbatim. There it is. Yeah.
I mean, you also have Welcome to the Rock, which is obviously probably the line that people quote the most when it comes to doing their Connery impressions is "Welcome to the Rock." Yeah. That's a great line too. But you're not going to find this anywhere else. This line right here, so that's easily the winner here.
Yeah.
Casting what ifs. I didn't find too much, man. This is really short. So I got one director what if, and I got one actor what if.
All right.
Director Tony Scott was supposed to direct this film, but he directed The Fan instead. Chose to direct the movie The Fan instead, and Michael Bay got this movie.
Holy shit!
Yeah, Tony Scott would have been good on this too.
He would have been good. Yeah, and I mean, I love The Fan. I don't think too many people have seen that movie.
No.
We're reviewing it. I saw that in the theater too.
Tony Scott was Michael Bay before Michael Bay.
About?
Huh?
You know what it's about or no?
The Fan? Yeah. Is it a sports movie?
It's a baseball movie / thriller. Okay. It's about Robert De Niro plays a diehard San Francisco Giants fan, and they get an MVP player called Bobby Rayburn, which is played by Wesley Snipes, right?
Oh, I know this movie.
Yeah, and Wesley Snipes is just in a fucking slump, like he's not doing good because they didn't give him his number. His number means everything to him. And Benicio del Toro plays the teammate that has the number, and they instantly get beef. Long story short, De Niro, everything's just crumbling for him. He loses his fucking job. He loses his kid. His ex-wife doesn't want to let him see the kid. The baseball season, which is season ticket holder, his team is going down the drain, and he doesn't blame Snipes. He blames the team for not giving the player that does the job what he wants. So he takes matters into his own hands and turns into like a psychopath fan. That's basically what it is.
So it kind of flips on its head halfway through.
Yeah. No, he fucking loses his mind. It's Yeah.
So Tony Scott did that instead of directing The Rock. I think
because Tony Scott definitely would have made this work.
Yeah.
But again, you have your iconic freaking car chases with
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay is known for when they're coming out of the water with the, like every single Michael Bay movie has that. Every single one.
Oh, you got the low angle
Bad Boys. Huh?
Yeah. The low angle shots. That's Michael Bay. Someone's stepping out of a car, then they're going to be stepping from a low angle shot every single time, no matter what. I got, when we get to interesting details that come up, there's a really good one about Ed Harris in here. But I got one more casting what if. John Patrick Mason was not originally supposed to be Sean Connery. Someone else was offered the role, and that was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No way.
Arnold was offered this role and then turned it down. and later in like a Reddit AMA a couple years ago says that he regrets not taking this movie because it looks so much fun afterwards. Could you imagine? Actually, this movie would not be iconic.
It wouldn't have worked. I'm so glad he didn't take this. And I love me some Schwarzenegger. I love Schwarzenegger. But honestly, this shit wouldn't have worked at all.
He's too goofy.
Yeah.
He's way too goofy for this film. This film takes itself a little too seriously, and Sean Connery has that right balance.
Yeah, I feel like, again, Michael Bay, with Bad Boys, he was doing a buddy cop comedy. With this one, I felt like it was a legit action film. Like he was, again, you have your Humvee line. I'm only borrowing your Humvee, when the guy's like, when he steals a Hummer and all that shit, and the trolley that explodes, a black guy fucking snapping on everybody saying that he was gonna kill whoever, So you have your little scenes here and there where again, he adds a little bit of layer of comedy in it, but overall I felt like he was trying to make an action film with this, but with me, he succeeded. I fucking love this movie. But so that's interesting, man. I'm so glad that didn't happen. Like, there's a lot of what ifs.
Imagine Tony Scott directed this with Schwarzenegger in the lead. That it would have been way different. So I'm kind of glad the way it worked out. Yeah. Let's get to the Mahershala Ali Award for Best Sharpshooter. I'm going to go first on this one, and you might shoot me down on this because this character might be in a little too much. I wanted Ed Harris.
No, that was my pick too.
That's your pick too? Okay. He's in it just the right amount. Like, I feel like he's at the very.
And honestly, like, it's. I don't think there's any other answer, to be completely honest with you, man. I like David Morse's character, but I feel like Ed Harris is not in the film too much.
No.
I think maybe like 20 minutes of the film total, maybe 25, 30 minutes.
Maybe. He shows up in the first scene, and then we don't see him for a little bit.
Yeah.
After the whole hostage negotiation, we don't see him for a bit. It becomes about Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery for quite a bit until Ed Harris shows up. I think the next time we see him is their shower scene that you were talking about.
Yeah,
that's the next time we really get to see him. And so,
well, you see him when he tells the girls to take over Alcatraz. He shoots and he goes, you guys are not hostages, this and that and that. We're not gonna hurt you. And then after that, you don't see him for a long time until the shower scene. So,
and then the way he goes out too, he just goes out kind of not as a hero, but more of like realizing what he was doing was a little too extreme. And I like the idea of him getting that, like, not himself, but just someone who thinks they're doing something right and it's clearly wrong, and them realizing what they're doing is wrong and making that decision right before they actually take that next step into way too far at this point. So
I remember the part that I kind of I was like, oh, in the theater was the first rocket that goes when it's heading towards the football stadium.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, they did it. Like, I was like, what the fuck? And then him, obviously, the
turn. Yeah.
Turning it or whatever. I was like, oh shit. But I was like, oh my God, this shit's going down. I never.
And the guys in the control booth are like, it's going to the football stadium. And you're like, whoa, they're going to kill some people in this movie. This is serious. Like, everybody would have died in San Francisco if that thing happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
The gas gets out, it's done. So, no, I thought they were really taking that next step there. Let's go to the Bill Murray Award for Best Cameo. I'll let you start in this one, Jader. Who's your pick for this? I think there's quite a few options.
Michael Biehn, man. Love seeing everything. So Michael Bihn's probably going to be my guy there. Again, he was a quick in and out. He was a character, but again, he was in the movie for like 10 minutes. He was literally in and out. And I'm a big fan of his. I again, growing up, watching older films and all that, again, Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw him on screen, I'm like, this is awesome. I love that he's in this. So, and again, every time that I see this movie, he's one. And then I always remember Francesco from Titanic, which I feel bad because I don't remember the guy's name.
I think it's one of the soldiers for me. Obviously, I almost went with Tony Todd, but then he's in it for a little too much. He gets a big moment towards the end. Bokeem Woodbine was some guy I had no idea who he was until we saw Spider-Man Homecoming. And then I'm like, oh, I've seen this guy in other movies before. Yeah. I went with John C. McGinley because this is like the third time we've given him this award. and he's like the Meryl Streep of this award. I think we saw him in Point Break, and then he popped up. Oh, and then we saw him in Seven, and now we have him in The Rock. So it's like we might need to rename this award after a while, because I think John C. McGinley, every time he comes in, he not just in this movie, but in any movie, he's committed every single time. I just love his presence on screen. I love what he brings to the table, and I would throw him in my movie, like no matter what. This guy,
he's awesome. I've never seen Scrubs, and everyone tells me how amazing he is in that show.
I've never seen it either, but
that's Stephanie. Like every time Steph sees him, she's like, "Oh, Doctor,
whatever."
Yeah.
So John C. McGinley's my pick. I'm sure he'll come up again. There's got to be other movies coming up soon where John C. McGinley pops in. So,
for sure.
If he's eligible for this award, he will always win it. In my what?
Yeah. Give me no. Go ahead.
Okay. We're a little bit of a delay there. All right, the Gary Oldman Everyone Award for Best Overacting. I think there's a couple picks here. Knowing Michael Bay and what he does, he lets his actors just kind of run wild. I went with Sergeant Bob. I think Sergeant Bob just he walks. Remember Sergeant Bob?
No, who's that?
He's the tour guide for Alcatraz. Oh, Jader's gone. No, Sergeant Bob is the tour guide for Alcatraz. Comes stomping in there. He's got this big personality, leading everyone. All right, everyone, tours this way. And then when Harris,
come here, say hi to everybody since you're interrupting the show.
Hi guys.
Hello.
All right.
How you doing?
Go upstairs.
Wait, do I press the red button?
Yeah, press the red button.
Nice little cameo right there. But when Ed Harris comes up, he comes up to Sergeant Bob at the end. He's like, "Tours this way, guys. Tour's over, Bob."
Tour's over, Bob. Yeah, I think that finished for me. I actually went with Gregory Sportleader. I think that's his name. I mean, IMDb him. Captain Fry. He's the one that ends up being the worst one of the villains.
Okay.
The one that actually at the end, that's faces him out.
Mm-hmm.
He was a little over the top for me, man. And every single time that I see the movie, he starts off like pretty good, but at the end, like I guess when he goes full psycho, like he's like and like shooting and like fucking cussing and like I don't know. It was just so much for me that I'm like,
Can I also throw in another one real quick?
Yeah, man, go ahead. I know again with some movies where like this guy and this guy and this guy. This is one of those movies, and I understand that.
John Spencer as Womack. I think he's overacting a little bit too. You're on a need-to-know basis, and you don't need to know this.
Yeah.
Or when Connery breaks the glass, he's like, "Womack, I knew it was you."
You son of a bitch. Or and then and when he throws him off, throws him off the building, he's like, "Watching you, fuckhead, you're the." But yeah.
He overdoes it quite a little bit in this movie.
Absolutely.
Interesting details. I got some good ones. This one's got some really good details that went along with production. First of all, Sean Connery made them build a cabin on Alcatraz Island so he didn't have to travel back and forth every single day to set. He said, "I'm not doing this movie unless you guys build me a cabin on the island." Of course, they obliged.
Of course, dude.
Yeah, you got to get Connery in there.
The reason we're doing this episode.
Exactly.
He says.
Another one, this has to do with the script. Quentin Tarantino is an uncredited writer on this film, and Aaron Sorkin helped write the shooting script of this film. Wow. So, like, two of the most legendary screenwriters of all time had an input on this film.
Legendary action film.
I know, right? Like, you would have. I can see hints of Tarantino in it. Sorkin, not. I would have never guessed in a million years.
Not at all.
Nope. And we'll have to do another Sorkin film one day. We've done The Social Network. We'll have to do another one. Of course, one of the biggest details is producer Don Simpson died during the production of this film.
Yeah. And
you see in remembrance of Don Simpson. The film is dedicated to Don Simpson is the last thing you see in this film. which is really nice. And like you said, he's a legendary producer. He's done so much.
He's done so much, man. Yeah, man. I remember that dynamic with Dom Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer, and Michael Bay. Anytime those got together, I was first day my ass was in those seats, man. Begging my mom. Hell yeah.
Wow. I got two more really good ones here. Michael Bay butted heads with Disney's producers all the time leading up to this movie. So one day he was supposed to meet with the producers after shooting. He had to leave set to go meet with the producers. And Sean Connery, in full golf attire, stopped him and asked him where he was going. Michael Bay told him, "I'm going to meet with the producers." And Sean Connery asked if he could come along. So you must have been, as a producer, their jaws dropped to the floor as they saw Sean Connery come walking in for this meeting. And he complied. Sean Connery stood up for Bay and said that he needs to be left alone to be able to direct what he wants to direct in this film. So Michael Bay got everything he wanted because Sean Connery was the best wingman you could have had in those meetings. I think that's so cool.
It goes back to saying with the whole cabin thing, if Sean Connery says something, you do it.
Exactly. And all golf attire. Apparently he's a avid golfer. Sean Connery is. Okay. So it's like, and just one day Sean Connery's like, "Hey, where are you going?" "I'm going to meet the producers." "Can I come?" "Sure."
Yeah.
All right, come on.
Awesome.
One more. This has to do with Ed Harris. Apparently Ed Harris has a history of absolutely hating the tight shots that Michael Bay loves to shoot because Ed Harris is a full body actor. So when you only have his face, Ed Harris gets pissed off because you can't see everything else that's going on when he's doing this body when he's acting. So I guess they've had a long history of going back and forth with that stuff.
Oh shit!
Yeah. Quick trivia question.
Worked again together. If I think about it, like I don't think Ed Harris has been in another Michael Bay film.
I thought he had.
He
wasn't in a Transformers movie. He seems like he would have been a army sergeant in one of the Transformers movies. Right?
Ed Harris has done 104 things, man.
Oh my gosh, he's done too much.
Yeah. No?
I
don't think so. Gone Baby Gone. History of Violence.
Yeah.
Love that movie. The Hours, Beautiful Mind, Enemy at the Gates, Stepmom, The Rock, Absolute Power, Truman Show.
I guess not, because Bad Boys was his first movie, so.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you can see why.
There you go.
Quick trivia question for you, man. Nicolas Cage and Ed Harris have been starred together in one other movie. Do you know what movie that is?
With Nicolas Cage and Ed Harris.
Mm-hmm. Nicolas Cage and Ed Harris have starred together in one other film. It's within this century.
This century?
Yeah, so from 2000 on.
You mean decade? Oh, this century, you mean. Sorry.
Yeah. Can you pull it? You're going to kick yourself.
Shut up.
You want the year?
Sure.
2007.
2007. Oh, fuck you. National Treasure.
National Treasure Book of Secrets.
Yeah, it's a sequel.
Yep. National Treasure Book of Secrets. I thought that was so interesting. I was reading through all the little clues and stuff here. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's cool. I forgot they were in the movie together.
Yeah. You're right.
All right. We got two more categories, guys. We're moving kind of fast here today. We got a lot of stuff to get to. Next week's going to be a fun episode. We'll talk about that later.
Next week is probably going to be a longer episode, so we'll make up for it, and we're pretty stacked. So, yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it in a sec. Apex Mountain. So when I was going through this, I couldn't decide if anybody really qualified for this award because as you go down the list, you're like Nicolas Cage, no. Sean Connery, no. This isn't his Apex by far. Ed Harris, no. Michael Biehn, no. I get to Michael Bay though, and I think we need to have a discussion about Michael Bay. I don't know how you feel about anyone else in this film. I think
that was my pick. It was Michael Bay.
Yeah. I think it's because of this. We've talked about his career. It depends on how you look at it. Do you want to look at it as what was his most popular film or what was his best film? And it's kind of what we have to decide. And I think you go with The Rock because that's what really put him on the map as a director that people want to go see no matter what. This movie made money. And
Oh, this movie is very, very popular. My fourth grade teacher let us write. I'll never forget this, man. My fourth grade teacher was letting us like free write, and we did kind of like it was like kind of like Animal Farm, where it was not humans, it was animals, but they can do human things. And I did something with jet skis and taking over an island, this and that and that. And then she told me, she goes, "You kind of got this from The Rock, right?" And I was like, yeah. And she goes, "I love that movie." And we started talking about it. Like my fourth grade teacher, she was, "Your mom let you see this movie?" And I was like, "Yeah, she doesn't care,
Doesn't care.
But yeah, and she was kind of like older. But I remember how much money this made. Again, my family alone, like through word of mouth, they all slowly started seeing it. I owned this movie on VHS, and then again, when it came out on DVD, I bought it again, and then when it came out on Blu-ray, and I'm sure when it comes out in 4K, I'll get it. I'll definitely buy it. It's one of those movies. I love this movie. I really do. But when you go back, like again, Bad Boys is probably my favorite Michael Bay film. But when I think best for me, it's The Rock. Like it's just a it's tight. Like it's a tight film, tight cast. Again, you have your one-offs here and there. The characters are great. You care, like you said, you were watching, you're like, oh damn, Mason, I want to see what happens. Oh, Goodspeed, he's a good character too, because Nicolas Cage was awesome in this movie.
Yeah.
General Hummel, they're like, oh, he's the bad guy that you can kind of relate to, because damn, if you were a soldier or something like that, if you were in in the military, you kind of be like, man, that's fucked up, because it happens all the time. It happens where you have all your veterans out in the street that that the United States forgot about, unfortunately. So you see the cause, I mean, not the cause, but the reason why he's doing this, and you're like, holy shit, man, like you're not wrong. But then him having a heart and kind of going back on his word, you're like, oh damn, so he is human. So it's just a lot of relatable characters overall. Excuse me. Again, tight film. I felt like the pacing's fine. I don't feel like this movie gets boring. I don't know about you, but for me at least, like the very beginning, he's preparing himself. He goes talk to his dead wife. Right after that, you see the heist where they grab the gas. And then after that, you see you meet Nicolas Cage, and then you have that freaking little doll thing with the gas in there, and everything's melting. And they're telling him he has to inject his heart. Like that shit gets intense, Mm-hmm. So you start meeting all these characters. Then you have your favorite scene, which is when they introduce Mason or whatever, and then you have the interrogation scene. So I feel like the pacing in this movie is actually not boring. It's really good. Actors are good. And again, obviously going back to what we were originally talking about, Michael Bay, if you look at his filmography, like this movie made a shitload of money, but his following movie made a shitload of money too, which was Armageddon.
Yeah.
And that movie's also been loved. It actually goes where people are like, that's his best film.
He's a hit maker. He really is. He knows how to tap into the audience, and the audience loves him for it. Is when you bring up his best movies, this is the one that people usually turn to. And I think what also makes it probably his best is everyone seems to be having a good time in it. And that's super important, because you look at some of his later films, like Ben Affleck, one of the most famous commentaries on a Blu-ray I've ever seen is Ben Affleck just roasting Armageddon as he goes through that movie. He's talking about all the
world needs drillers.
Yeah, like what the hell are we doing here? Transformers, each varies to different degrees as to who's trying and who's not. And then
Pearl Harbor made a shitload of money when it was in the theater, and people were loving that movie. I think I was one of the few that didn't, because I'm like, dude, I wanted to see a goddamn war movie, because I was expecting Saving Private Ryan, but obviously knowing something of this history, because the German War, World War II and all that. At that age, I didn't really know. Pearl Harbor came out in 2001, where I was a little bit older, and I'm like, oh, I know what happened in Pearl Harbor. I want to see this movie, and it ended up being a freaking love story. Again, I don't hate the movie. I don't hate Pearl Harbor, but it's fine. And then you had Bad Boys right after that. You had The Island, which was a really interesting concept. I think that movie has. I'm sorry, bro. I guess I like Michael Bay, dude. And for me, it wasn't until like Revenge of the Fallen where I was like, all right, like that's it. Because even the first Transformers, say what you will, that movie's fucking awesome.
I like the first Transformers. I think the third one is the best. I have so much fun
Dark of
watching
the Moon. I love that. So I was gonna say that. So Revenge of the Fallen for me, I was like, oh, you guys, like he took it back, like he took a step backwards with this one. This one wasn't that good. But then when I saw Dark of the Moon, I freaking love that Chicago raid.
Oh my god, yeah,
amazing.
And when they kill all the Autobots, like you think they kill all the Autobots, you're like, this movie's intense. Like, where are we? What? Let me tell you, watching those movies, I was at the right age when the first Transformers came out, where I was on board no matter what. Ironhide was my favorite.
Ironhide was awesome, and they killed him in the third one.
Yes, before all the action starts. I'm like, you can't be serious. He's melting, turning into rust. So when that guy turns on him, I said, fuck this movie, man, because that's my favorite guy. You don't take him out. But it gets better too, man. And then seeing everyone comes back, they should have tied a bow on it there, really. But it makes
honestly, yes, I agree, because it was like, all right, maybe you didn't make 3 like great ones, but you made two good ones. Because I love Transformers 3. I absolutely really do like that movie. It's the following one, like Age of Extinction, and even the last night where I'm like, all right, I'm done. And then Bumblebee came, and but it wasn't a Bay film.
Yeah.
But Pain and Gain. 13 hours. So when he grounds himself, I feel like the movies are good. But then he wants to do all this extravagant shit, and that's where he loses people.
He thinks he's funny too, and he also he thinks some of his humor, which we need to address, some of his humor is not in taste with what's going on and the current. I mean, like, look at the second Transformers movie. There's 2 robots who are clearly racial stereotypes. It's completely racist. Like the Skids and Mudflap, I think their names are, and the green and the pink or orange car. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of problems with Michael Bay, and he's got a history of stuff.
How do you get out?
What's going on?
He can't. He doesn't know how to work TV.
No, but when you are done watching the video, how did he get out?
I'll show you. Dude, I'll be upstairs in 10 minutes.
Can you press return?
Yes. Sorry.
We're almost there, buddy. Don't worry. So yeah, Michael Bay, he's got a long history of stuff that he is questionable. Say what you will about him. He's a good producer, and he knows what people want to see, and you can't take that away from him. It's just the facts right now. He's got a career. It's not going away anytime soon. His new trailer for his new movie looks interesting. You've seen this? It's called Songbird.
No.
And it's a movie that takes place in 2024, 4 years into the coronavirus. So the virus is still going on, and we've just kind of adapted, and we're still dealing with it's evolved, and we're still adapting to the consequences of what our actions were from when it first started. I'm
gonna look at the trailer now when I go upstairs.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm looking forward to that, man. And maybe if he gets his humor in check and adjusts a couple of things, he'll be more favorable to people. Like, could you imagine if Bay makes something that gets some Academy attention at some point? That'd be so funny.
I feel like regardless, even if they tried,
they would never give it to him.
They would never give it to him, and everybody would just shit on him, man, because that's the cool thing to do. That's why I said I'm not a Michael Bay hater by any means. I can admit that
he's got problems.
Aren't fucking made for Oscars and all that stuff. But
he knows what he said. I hear you. Let's move on to the last category real quick. Because I can tell things are piping up. Let's do it. Who won the movie? Jader, I think this is easy for us. It's Sean Connery.
Sean Connery, hands down.
Right?
Yeah, no,
it's easily Sean Connery, and it kind of ties everything back to where we started for this whole episode. Sean Connery easily wins this movie to me. The movie is good until he shows up, and then he really kicks it into the next gear and takes you all the way to the end. I care about what he's doing. I want him to survive. When he's facing all the Marines by himself and walks in without any weapons, I don't want to see him go. And then at the end, even though he is someone who has done questionable things in his life, I'm happy that he got off at the end and gets to go live his life. So that's a testament to Sean Connery, his acting, his charisma, his charm. he's a great presence, and so to me, he easily wins this movie.
Yeah, no, hands down. I mean, I think this was the movie that we agreed where we were kind of knowing exactly who was going to fall in what category. I think the only thing we didn't agree on was probably like overacting. But no, and you weren't wrong. You weren't wrong. But overall, I feel like they like this movie again. It's amazing. Sean Connery kicks so much ass, and then I can't imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger like being a John Mason. Like that wouldn't have worked. Tony Scott could have done this with Sean Connery, and it probably would have worked. Tony Scott couldn't have done this with Schwarzenegger because it wouldn't have worked. It would have been a completely different movie.
Yeah. And I mean, it's unfortunate that Sean Connery's career ended with The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
His last film? No, man.
Huh?
That wasn't his last film, was it?
Yeah, that's the one that made him retire. It was The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah.
It's too bad because like all the problems with everything of that movie, and that's what he ends on. It sucks, but we look at the positive. We go back for Sean Connery for everything he stood for, everything that he meant to the film industry. He changed cinema because he was a movie star. He brought people to the theaters, and honestly, man, minus the coronavirus, if he was still acting today and he put out a movie, people would go see it still just because it's Sean Connery. I truly believe that. That's going to do it, everyone, for episode 29 of the Jader and Kyle Show. We hit an hour mark exactly here. Jader, next week we got a big episode.
We do. I don't even want to we'll just say it's a draft episode, and
movie draft is back next week, guys.
Movie draft is back next week. That's as far as we're going to say. We're not going to give you the topic. We're not going to tell you who's on. It's going to be a fun episode.
It's going to be really good, guys. We got some good guests lined up. It's going to be more than 3 of us. I can tell you that. And it's if you're fans of certain big genres, it's going to be a great time. We had such a blast doing the movie drafts.
We're going to have to do it again.
We always have to do it. Yeah. I've been itching to do it. I don't know about you, man.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've been planning this out for a little while. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Jader, any final things you want to say?
Nope. I got kids to attend, bro.
Perfect. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Another episode of the Jader and Kyle Show.